What's going on, guys? Mark here from Labyrinth Studios. Today I want to talk about 5 beginner mixing mistakes. These are in no particular order, just some of the things I have learned and picked up over the years in my career as a mixing engineer. Mistake number 1: getting caught up in editing. It's far too easy to get caught up in editing when you start work on a mix. This can quickly lead to wreaking havoc on your mix and your productivity. Editing should really be left until after you've done your mix processing, level balancing, and so on. Obviously, if you need to comp takes and do groundwork that will help you make sense of your mix, then get that done first, but don't go in and spend hours automating your vocal, as once you've applied EQ, compression, and other processing, this will change how that automation sounds. It's better to do that kind of work after the fact rather than to mix into it. You'll often find after a bit of compression the automation choices you'll make will be totally different. Mistake number 2: level balancing before processing. The first thing I do when I start a mix is I'll have 1 or 2 listens to the overall track to get an idea of the vibe and what the song needs, and then I'll go in instrument by instrument and start applying processing. I'll leave the fader adjustments until I start balancing processed tracks against each other. Otherwise, you're making decisions on how you should balance the elements of the song against each other out of context. Once you then start applying EQ and compression and effects, this will change your mix balances, and if you've already adjusted your faders, you can end up making processing choices harder for yourself, as you'll be judging those choices in the out of context you have created for yourself. Mistake number 3: gain staging. Hopefully the stems you have ready for mixing are already properly gain staged, but as we all know, this is often not the case. Signals can be too hot or too quiet, so it's worth spending 5 minutes to make sure your levels are consistent. By having properly gain staged tracks, you won't be sending signal into plugins too hot or too low, which means you'll get much better results from your plugin processing and, by extension, a better mix. Mistake number 4: listening to the track too much. I know. This one might seem counterintuitive at first, but trust me, you should be spending most of your mix time not listening to the song as a whole. Have a few initial listens, then work on your mix processing track by track. So as an example, on a full band mix, I'll start with processing my drums, give the drum tracks a rough balance on the faders, then bring in the bass and mix that against the drums, then the guitars, and so on. This way you're building up your mix in context. Otherwise, if you solo something, process it a bit, then listen to it against everything else out of context and unprocessed, you're making decisions and comparing what you have mixed against what you haven't. You're far more likely to get lost this way, dig yourself into a hole, and your mix will take you far longer to finish. Mistake number 5: not working quickly enough. Now, this one is a big one for me. Naturally, when you're less experienced, you are going to take longer to finish a mix versus an experienced mix engineer, but it's important to try and work as quickly as you can. Don't overthink your decisions. Don't spend forever tweaking that one EQ on your kick drum. If you're struggling with getting something to sound right and you've been at it for a while, move on to another track in the mix and come back to that one later. Ear fatigue happens fast. We've all experienced it. We come back to that mix we were mixing yesterday for hours on end, and suddenly it sounds totally different. That's because we're coming back to it with fresh ears and a fresh perspective. The more experienced you become as a mixer, the better you'll get at maintaining that fresh perspective during a mix session, as you learn to work quickly with a set of tools that you know inside out, and it all starts to become so much easier. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this top 5 beginner mixing mistakes from me. There's loads more I could have talked about in this video, but I wanted to keep it to the point and to cover some ideas on mixing that I felt were unique against other videos like this that I have seen. If you'd like me to follow up this video with another top 5 or more mixing advice, let me know in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. This really does help me out, especially as this channel is still growing. Hit the notifications bell as well to stay up to date with the latest videos that I'm putting out. Thanks for watching. I look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.